She's a Russian-born novelist who's apparently become a motivating force in the race for the White House. Gary Weiss's new book, which looks at Ayn Rand's impact on American culture and politics, comes out today. It's called Ayn Rand Nation: Hidden Struggle for America's Soul. Gary's also a columnist at TheStreet.com. And good morning to you, Gary.
Good
Here's
morning,
the book. Took a look at it yesterday. Explain, if you could, the connection in your mind between Ayn Rand's philosophy and the race for the White House, if you could.
Well, what Ayn Rand did was she put forth a philosophy of capitalism. She made it, she really was the person who was behind the, I think, the movement that we see in this country, that sort of glorifies free enterprise. And she pushed, because through her philosophy, she pushed the Tea Party in the direction of free enterprise, away from social programs. And I think that she sort of indirectly pushed the Republican Party to the right. That's basically the thesis of my book.
That sounds like opposite things, though. If you push them away from social and towards free markets, then you consider free market philosophy further to the right than social issues?
I think that it's not so much a question of what's further to the right, further to the left. She was opposed to the government getting involved in things like abortion and intruding into individual rights. Very much like Ron, very much like Ron Paul. And I think what you're seeing there is that you're seeing, although Rick, obviously. Rick Santorum is very much pushing the religious right and whatever. The Tea Party has been, which is, I think, the origins of the rightward movement of the Republican Party.
Earlier today, Harwood called them Tea-vangelicals, which I thought was a good word, because Tea Party, to me, does not imply evangelical. Tea Party, to me, implies small government and low taxes, and I don't see the social necessary. I think people would like to put the Tea Party further to the right in terms of social but I don't think they are. I think it's mostly an economic
it is mostly economic.
But you also talk about, in the same vein, people like Mitt Romney, who I think you would think of as more moderate, sort of going right, simply to sort of fit this philosophy.
Well, I think what you've seen is that the Tea Party has pushed Republicans to the right, and everything has pushed Mitt Romney to the right. He is just willing to take whatever position is going to get him the most votes, and so he just moves to the right, blowing with the wind, in effect.
And does that mean that if he's the nominee, he blows back to the left or blows back to the middle once we're at a general election?
Whatever will get him elected.
Can't you say the same thing about a lot of politicians? I mean, they move to either the right or the left during the primaries. They try and move back to the center for a general election. I mean, I think I've seen it with many, many politicians.
Oh, sure. But I think Romney probably more than most.
Because of his background as a Massachusetts governor, or?
I think just because of his record for flip-flopping. He just doesn't have. I don't believe he has any convictions. I think he will do whatever it takes to be elected president.
Well, that's redundant for most politicians.
Oh, sure, but it's even more redundant for
I've just seen such a lack of principle from so many of these politicians recently. I mean, even Obama saying that he would not take any super PAC money and then reversing his stance on that. I mean, he's a sitting president who is running with the benefit of being an elected president. If you're not going to stand up for principle, then when are you?
Yeah.
I guess if you delve too far into the philosophy of Ayn Rand, you can finally get to a point where it starts to look a little bit like a conspiracy, or you could almost use it as a. I noticed the names that you tied are the hot button names. Glenn Beck. That are pejoratives in and of themselves to the left at this point. You don't even have to put an adjective next to Glenn Beck. It's just people on the left know what he stands for. And I don't know whether some people that have never read Ayn Rand just need to know just the basic notion of the Adam Smith notion that two parties looking after their own self-interest is what's needed to set price, to allocate capital effectively. I mean, she didn't decide to be some subversive that's trying to, take us all and turn us into some selfish objectivists that just are Gordon Gekko greed, bring it in. I hope you're going to write a corollary to this on the Saul Alinsky effect on the current election. You're going to do that side of the equation or not?
I don't think Saul Alinsky is anywhere near as impacting on the political process as much as Ayn Rand is. Saul Alinsky didn't.
That's from where you're sitting, though.
Saul Alinsky didn't sell 500,000 books last year.
Who would Ayn Rand vote for?
Ayn Rand wouldn't. I don't think she'd have particularly liked any of the candidates, including Ron Paul. I think she'd have hated Ron Paul.
Really?
she would have hated.
But wouldn't Ron Paul fit squarely in her circle a little bit?
No, because he's opposed abortion.
Right.
And she was very much in favor of abortion. You know, she didn't favor Ronald Reagan for the very same reasons that she wouldn't have favored any of the Republican nominees for social issues.
But it's purely an objectivist. I mean, you've read Atlas Shrugged and found that.
I have.
If you've never read it, it at least opens your eyes to that side of things.
Well,
if you immerse yourself in it, I think in your book you're sort of actually some of the bad things that happened in the last years of Alan Greenspan's tenure. You're sort of are you tying that to some of his advocacy of Ayn Rand's views?
I think that he was very much influenced by Greenspan throughout his career, a great deal more than he's willing to let on.
And you're talking about in the deregulation. Aspect, but
Absolutely.
there were a lot. There's a lot. I mean, deregulation goes all the way back to Jimmy Carter. It goes to Larry Summers. This is a bipartisan.
Absolutely. There's no question about that. I think Greenspan was a key player, and I think to the extent that he was pushing for deregulation,
was a positive or a negative for in his service to this country.
Oh, I think definitely a negative.
See, I think that's from where you're sitting too. I think Greenspan's been a positive for the country.
Yeah, I think he was definitely not a positive for the country.
Because it was a global phenomenon, the financial crisis. So I mean, of course, easy monetary policy it goes global, obviously. That's different than the regulatory aspect.
That's why I said there's two aspects to it, and there's a lot of other things. The book, Ayn Rand Nation, Gary Weiss, thank you for coming in this morning. I appreciate it very, very much.
You come back with that song when you write that.
I will. I will. Don't hold your breath.